Since the early 2000s, the word marriage has been at the center of a bitterly fought culture war, and one side has now prevailed. These victors have successfully redefined marriage in the broader culture. It now means something entirely different than it did even 20 years ago. In one of the most widely used dictionaries in America, marriage is defined this way. Marriage is a legally recognized relationship established by a civil or a religious ceremony between two people who intend to live together as sexual or domestic partners. This definition is now enshrined in our law, and it's taught to our children in school. But is this what marriage really is? Words are precious conveyors of reality. They not only shape the way that we think, but they determine our choices and our actions. They shape the kind of cultures that we live in. If you want to change society, you begin by changing language. Our adversary knows this all too well. In recent decades, a strategic redefining of many critical words has led to dramatic cultural changes for the worse. People have absorbed these false redefinitions uncritically, including many Christians. And in doing so, they've become unwitting agents in advancing non-Christian systems of belief that are tearing our nation apart. This is a disaster for the church and for the society. To turn things around, we have to recover the true definitions of at least 10 critical words. And one of these words is marriage. Marriage is a beautiful, even a sacred institution created by God to bless the world. While many dishonor marriage, as Christians we need to speak highly of it, we need to celebrate it, we need to preserve it. Marriage is the God-ordained, comprehensive, exclusive, and permanent union that brings together a man and a woman as husband and wife to be the father and the mother to any children that their union brings into being. In the words of Ryan Anderson, the author of numerous books on marriage and sexuality, marriage is based on the anthropological truth that men and women are different and complementary, the biological fact that reproduction depends upon a man and a woman, and the social reality that children need both a mother and a father. Marriage is a relationship like no other because it links uniquely sex, procreation, and child raising in a powerful, life-giving, culture-creating mosaic. We can learn about marriage by looking at the very first marriage, the marriage of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden before the fall. It serves as a template for all marriages in all cultures and for all times. Here, we see marriage as the exclusive uniting of a man and a woman. Not a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or a man and an animal, or a man and multiple women, or any other combination. Because God created Adam and Eve male and female, so-called homosexual marriage is excluded. And likewise, because Adam could find no helper suitable among the animals, bestiality is excluded. And because God created just one woman for Adam, polygamy is excluded, and the pattern of monogamy is established. God also designed marriage to be an exclusive, lifelong relationship rooted in a solemn commitment of fidelity, for better or worse, till death do us part. In this way, marriage reflects God's very nature, for He's a God that makes and keeps His covenants or promises. God says to His people in the Old and the New Testaments, "I will never leave you, I will never forsake you." Because God created marriage to reflect His character, divorce is an abomination because it tells a lie about the faithfulness of Christ, who never leaves or forsakes His bride, the church. God created man, male and female, to complement each other. And here we see both unity and diversity. We see unity, for example. Both are human beings, both are valued and loved by their Creator, and both have equally essential roles in carrying out God's purposes in history. But we also see diversity. The husband and the wife have different roles in marriage. The husband's role is to be the God-ordained head or the authority in marriage. Now, his authority in no way implies superiority. Instead, it involves self-sacrifice. In the words of the Apostle Paul, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." So the husband's role is to take leadership initiative to provide protection and provision for his wife and children. The wife's role is to be the God-ordained helper. In Genesis 2:18, we read that God said of Adam, "I will make a helper suitable for him." The helper role doesn't imply weakness or inferiority, far from it. The husband needs the help, and the wife provides it. This is a picture of genuine complementarity. So this begs the question, help with what? Well, help with God's original job description for humanity, which we read about in Genesis chapter 1. "And God blessed them, and God said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth.'" Now, Adam can't do this on his own. He needs a helper, Eve, to complement him. Not merely to procreate, but to actually raise godly offspring, as the prophet Malachi said. Future generations that would fill the earth and be a blessing to the nations. Both mothers and fathers play vital roles in raising these kind of godly offspring. Proverbs 6:20 and 21 says, "My son, keep your father's commands and forsake not your mother's teaching." Now, of course, singleness is also a great part of God's plan, and God uses it in significant ways, as he did in the life of the Apostle Paul or our Savior Jesus Christ. But yet, for most of us, marriage will shape our lives more profoundly than almost anything else. Marriage is a uniquely life-giving, multi-generational, culture-forming, and even civilization-building institution. Flourishing societies are built on the foundation of healthy families, and they are built on the foundation of strong marriages. In other words, as goes marriage, so goes the family. As goes the family, so goes the nation and even the world. Marriage is the foundation upon which children are brought into the world and their characters are formed. And that's why it has such enormous social consequences. Marriage says to a child, "The man and the woman whose sexual union made you will be there for you to raise you," said David Blankenhorn. Marriage says to society as a whole, "For every child that is born, there will be a recognized mother and father accountable to the child and to each other." As the Manhattan Declaration states, vast human experience confirms that when marriage is honored and where there's a flourishing marriage culture, everyone benefits. The spouses themselves, the children, the community, and the society in which they live. Tragically, a moral and sexual revolution has been raging in the United States and around the world since around the 1950s, and it's led to a fundamental redefining of marriage. This redefinition has devastated not only individual lives, but whole nations. Today, marriage is reduced to little more than a temporary legal recognition for a romantic sexual relationship. We see this redefinition in Microsoft's embedded English dictionary, which is possibly the world's most referenced English dictionary. There we read that marriage is a legally recognized relationship established by a civil or religious ceremony between two people who intend to live together as sexual and domestic partners. Now, the difference between this definition and the true definition we just looked at is vast. First, notice how God, the Creator and the one who defined marriage, its main supporting pillar, he isn't even mentioned in this definition. So when God, the Creator and definer of marriage, is stripped away, it fragments, it actually falls apart. And this is precisely what we're seeing throughout the West and around the world. Next, I want you to notice that children aren't mentioned in this redefinition, let alone their nurture or their education. Widely available birth control and legal abortion have effectively led to the stripping of sex from procreation and both from marriage. So now marriage is exclusively an institution that serves the interests of adults. Finally, this false Microsoft definition says that marriage is a legally recognized relationship. But notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say anything about an exclusive, lifelong commitment. When permanence is stripped out of marriage, the inevitable result are skyrocketing rates of divorce. Today, tragically, about half of all marriages in the United States end in divorce. With divorces so common, many of our young people are just simply opting out of marriage, choosing just to live together. In the United States, about a quarter of unmarried women between the ages of 25 and 39 are in cohabitating relationships, and 40% bring children into those shaky non-committal relationships. At the same time, interest in polygamy and so-called open marriage is surging. Divorce, cohabitation, polygamy, the separation of sex from marriage all have led to massive increases in out-of-wedlock births and all the accompanied shattered lives and societal disorders. With God, sex, procreation, monogamy, permanence, exclusivity all stripped away from marriage, the conditions were ripe for the next pillar to fall, the male-female binary. You'll notice that the Microsoft definition says that marriage is between two people, not a man and a woman. Before the year 2001, no country in the world at any time in history had ever defined marriage as a same-sex institution. And yet today, 35 countries, including the United States, have officially declared that males and females are no longer essential to marriage. Tragically, we've not yet hit the bottom. In their 2009 statement, Beyond Same-Sex Marriage, more than 300 LGBTQ activists called for legally recognizing sexual relationships involving more than two partners. Marriage is literally being defined out of existence. Not surprisingly, this has led to sharp declines in the number of marriages and in family size and fertility rates. The rapid decline in fertility is really at a crisis level now in many Western nations. A nation needs a fertility rate of 2.1 births per woman for a stable population. Research has shown that when the fertility rate drops below 1.3, that a nation will go extinct. It will not recover. Today, 10 nations have rates less than 1.3, including Spain, Italy, Singapore, and South Korea. G.K. Chesterton once said, "This triangle of truisms of father, mother, and child cannot be destroyed. It can only destroy those whose civilizations disregard it." And because we are disregarding this triangle, our nations are being destroyed. So, what understanding of marriage do you want to shape society? Words matter. They are powerful. All genuine social change, for better or worse, begins with a shift in language and definitions. God reveals the true definition of marriage in His Word, the Bible. These actual definitions are not just true for Christians. They are true for everyone. But unless we as Christians know the true definitions, unless we build our lives and our marriages on them, our societies will be built on false definitions, and we will reap the terrible consequences. Do you want to be part of upholding and defending the truth about marriage? We can help.